does. I feel so special right now. Thank you, God. Like, I feel really special.
Thanks.
You made me cry.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. And I brought some gorgeous hats, so I'm going to let you take your pick. These are 1940s specials. There's two.
God.
There's two.
Oh my God.
So you can take your
pick. Look at this one.
Oh, look. You look the business in that one.
Oh, that is the business.
I think that's, yeah.
And this one's pretty cool, too.
That one's cool, but not as cool. And I will let you wear the cool one because I'm cool like that.
Plus, in the book, when she talks about how she likes a fedora better than a,
Oh, stop. See, I haven't read the book yet.
Oh, you haven't read the book yet. So
I'm picking it up.
All right. There's a big conversation about hats in there. Looking good.
I didn't even know. I saw the plumes on the front and just assumed.
Yeah.
I saw the plumes and assumed. Look at that.
You just...
She's a poet. I bought some plumes just because you had those on there, and I'm actually going to be styling some of these hats. I bought 36 hats like 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. So, one of my things is gifting.
Okay.
I show love this way. I don't expect anything, and if you want to ditch any of it at the airport, like it won't hurt my feelings. Okay, so I'm gonna save the best for last. This is a vintage Christmas ornament. So you grew up on a Christmas tree farm, right?
That's right, I did.
So Christmas trees or no Christmas trees at your place or your family?
In my life?
Your own.
Mm-hmm. That's a really funny question. We always had the worst one because my dad he wasn't going to waste a perfectly good Christmas tree on his own family. So we always had sometimes we'd have two. We'd have a garbage tree that was like half empty on one side and half on the other side.
Stop.
And he'd twine them together and make a sort of scrappy tree for us. But no, our family's not particularly Christmas tree driven because it's a little bit like working in an ice cream store. You're kind of done with it by the time Christmas comes. Yeah. You
talked about your wick being high and low at times and sometimes really low. And you also talked about your love as being like a match. You went out like a fire, you know? And this is a 1940s matchbook.
Oh my God,
with
look
wax
at that.
matches.
Shut up.
So that's her like beaming down right now. That's
God.
Seriously, it's brand new, like never been opened until you.
That's amazing.
And if you can't put this in your carry-on, I can mail it.
In my carry-on? First of all, that's my carry-on. And absolutely, I'm not letting this out of my sight. This is the coolest.
So to go with the rockets, and they did not come together. I just I let things talk to me, you know?
Oh, you have a good eye.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Your house must be full of amazing stuff.
Yeah, I tend to buy and sell a lot.
I bet.
Okay, so last gift. This came from my friend Gypsy Joel. She has a cool store in downtown Raleigh, and this all my guests get. I'll let you open. All my guests get this mug.
Oh, I wonder what it's gonna be. It's not easy being a badass. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Some days it's totally easy.
Oh, this is so good. Thank you so much. I love it.
Yeah.
What a great. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love this whole spectacle.
And I don't have your beautiful books here to show everybody, but of course you know Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, and City of Girls, her newest book, which I'm very excited to read, and podcasts. You can listen to her interviews with, because you're one of Oprah's favorite things. People think it's the Christmas gifts, but I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert. When you were waiting tables or bartending and you're doing all these jobs that could be meaningless, how did you prevent yourself from being like, I'm just and like filling in that sentence. I'm just while you're trying to live your dream.
Well, first of all, thank you for my hat.
You're welcome.
Secondly, thank you for your hat, which I'm enjoying looking at on your face.
It's so funny.
I always knew that I was going to be a writer, or certainly that I was going to do everything I could to be a writer. I always defined myself as a writer, regardless of whether or not I was published. I think that you get to say that. You get to say that. It's not dependent on whether the outside world embraces what you're doing. I was a writer because I write. That's the simplest thing. A writer writes. And when I graduated from college, I made a deliberate decision to not get a normal job and to not get a normal career, but to go and work in diners and ranches and bars and to travel and to take odd jobs at flea markets. Because I wanted to be as engaged with people as I could possibly be in order to hear as many different stories and voices as I could possibly hear. So for me, the best job I ever had as a writer was being a diner waitress or bartender. Those were the two jobs that.
Or hairstylist. You didn't go that route.
Yeah, that would have done it too.
Stories.
That would have done it too. But like, you know, most people, if you work in an office job, you see the same 4 or 5 people for your whole life. You come home, you see the same family members for your whole life. You working at the diner counter for an entire day, all of humanity comes in with their tales and their heartbreaks and their dialogue. And I had my notebook for waiting, you know, for orders in one pocket and my notebook for writing stuff down in the other. So it wasn't a despairing moment for me.
It was a choice.
It was a career choice.
These are the stories you will eventually tell in your memoirs or your books.
Yeah, and in my first book was a collection of short stories called Pilgrims, and every single one of those stories was born out of those jobs and the people that I met in those jobs. And I also knew that I didn't know much about the world. I was young. I grew up in Connecticut. There's not a lot to say. Like, you want to tell somebody like how to end a conversation, just say I'm from Connecticut. It's like, really? Huh. Like literally the biggest conversation.
I go straight to elephant's trunk, but that's
and I just wanted to be like, I just wanted to know the world and roll around in it and meet people and hear voices. And so it was an artistic choice, if that makes sense. And I was very aware of it at the time that that's what I was doing.
How did you know when you heard the voice that led you to certain books or to certain voices behind characters in your books?
It's such a mysterious process because there are times when it talks to you and there are times when it doesn't. And yet I have this tremendous trust that I will be told what to do next. I will be told what to write next. I will be told what to explore. I will be told when it's time to sit down and actually begin. I didn't always have that, but having done really nothing but write for my whole life, that trust is very intact at this point in my mind. And when I'm not downloading ideas or firing or in exchange with the universe in some mysterious way, I don't panic because the way that I see myself is as a servant to this work. And when I mean servant, I don't mean beaten down slave. I mean like trained butler. You know, I mean, like, I stand outside the door of inspiration in a suit with white gloves on and my hands folded behind my back, and I wait for my master's command, and then I obey it excellently. You know, like, it's that level of relationship.
I love
where, like,
that.
I am in service to inspiration itself, and you can count on me to show up for it.
So when did you realize, because you're a great interviewer, you have to be to get these stories in the first place from people, right? So do you wake up inspired to like hear these stories? I mean, have you always been that way since you were
little? I've always been very curious, you know, and I think curiosity is one of the antidotes to despair and to depression, because curiosity is a living force. I also think that curiosity is a really good cure for a culture that tells you that you should be constantly following your passion, which can be very intimidating.
And confusing for a lot of folks. Not for you, right, it seems, but for many people, just asking them that question is daunting.
It's so daunting, and you feel very shamed if you don't have a passion, if you haven't monetized your passion.
What's a better question?
What are you curious about? Because curiosity is accessible almost every day, and passion is a very rare lightning strike of God. What are you curious about? And it doesn't have to be massive. Curiosity is like a tiny little tap on the shoulder that tells you to turn your head a quarter of an inch and look a little closer at something. And it may be that it's just for that instant, and then that's done and you're done on that path. Or it may be that it leads you to your passion.
Right.
You know, but constant curiosity means constant creative response to the world. So yeah, I'm blessed. It's like being curious is one of my talents, you know, meaning like a gift. Like, it's a real gift, but you can also cultivate it.
And it's a little ways to find joy, tiny tappings of joy throughout your day curiosity, right?
Yeah, it's the breadcrumbs. It's you know, this is actually interesting. I'll give you this as a contrast to the idea of looking up. I think lots of times when people are searching for their passion, they're looking up and that they're waiting for God to give them like this is your purpose, this is your answer, this is what you're here for. And meanwhile, you're missing everything that's down here.
It's true.
Right at your feet that's really interesting, strange, curious, unique, tiny. You know, so I would also say, if you're struggling with this idea of not having a passion, to bring your attention back down low. What's right in front of you that's just like 1% interesting? You know, go and do that. And it can be like I want to take a pottery class for a day. And then it's like you don't quit your job, shave your head, get divorced, and go to pottery school. You just like take an afternoon pottery class.
I want to learn welding. This is listen. I'm
just
right
like
there
I want to
with
do
you.
it, and then maybe after like 2 classes, you're like, yeah, that's not really my thing, but I did it. It was cool. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that. Like people will shame you for like not sticking to something, but I think that there's a really beautiful life to be had.
I've mastered that, moving around. I've mastered that. I tried spreading butterfly wings and doing that whole thing. I just realized that, you know.
Yeah, you did, but you did it. It's not that it failed. It's like you just.
I loved it.
It's not my
thing.
thing.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
they're hanging in my show. So, gosh, what else should we talk about? I have so many things that I've wanted to ask you for so long. When you come here and talk today, what sort of message are you wanting to bring to this audience here in Raleigh?
Well, hopefully I'll mostly just entertain them, you know, and just tell stories that are funny.
Like that.
Yeah, everyone wants to be entertained. But I'll be talking about creativity, and specifically I'll be talking about the relationship between creativity and fear, and how you can expect that whenever you embark on something new, that fear will be the first voice in the room. As soon as, like, the second you get inspiration, excitement, curiosity, the next voice is going to be a voice of fear telling you to shut it down. And so just talking about the ways to navigate that, and so that you can
excited to
have a more
that.
curious life and a more creative life.
So the Q&As that you did in your book and that you do constantly, including with Oprah, I mean, she just I love it because Oprah's so wise in herself, but she just listens to you, and so do I. I loved hearing your podcast. So what spawned this where, you know, Elizabeth is, you know, giving this amazing insight and answers? Like, when did you recognize your gift to also inspire through your own words outside of writing?
Well, it sort of happened after Eat, Pray, Love, and then also I gave a TED Talk shortly after Eat, Pray, Love that was very widely viewed, and that those two things, that book and that TED Talk, positioned me in a different way in people's imaginations, and it's so ironic because all of Eat, Pray, Love is about somebody who's very lost, you know, trying to find herself. And so it's not somebody who's setting out to answer the world's questions.
Right.
It's somebody who's like, what have I done? I just blew up a marriage. I'm 34. I'm supposed to have a kid and be in a house, and I just left a house, and I'm not having a kid, and nothing is what I planned, and I'm ashamed, and I'm lost and confused and disappointed in myself and afraid. You know, how that person becomes somebody who people come to answers for, I think, is merely a function of me speaking openly about that process, and saying, and still continuing to, you know, to this day, I'm very open and I'm very willing to share with people my ongoing process, my ongoing anxiety, my ongoing vulnerability, and weirdly that makes people come to you with questions.
Amazing, right? How that works.
You would think that you would have to be positing yourself as the one with the great answers, but it's actually not how it works.
No, being more vulnerable, wearing silly hats, and just being kind of yourself is the best. I put on a lot of weight after the baby, and some of the vanity of just being that person sort of just went away, and so I'm just happy to be here, like on camera doing silly things. That's really who I am. So to be here doing it with you is super exciting for me.
Thank you.
I'm just so grateful for your time. I don't want to take any more of it, but gosh,
thank you so much.
Such a blessing.
Good luck on all your future endeavors, and thank you for my presence.
You're so welcome. It was such a pleasure, and I wish you well in your talk today. You know, because that's always can be nerve-wracking. Do you get nervous before?
I do always a little. Yeah. I feel like nervousness is it's a good sign. It means you've got skin in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You care.
Have you been to Raleigh before? This is
I have been. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in North Carolina when I was working on a book that I wrote called The Last American Man. That was about a guy named Eustace Conway, who's a modern-day mountain man who lives in North Carolina. So I spent a fair amount of time.
But that's Appalachian.
It is, but I've been in and out of various parts of
Awesome. Anything you like best besides our 90-degree weather?
I like your climate. I love the forests of North Carolina. It's so beautiful. It's so deeply beautiful. I also like your barbecue. But I would say most of all, I just think of that fetid, just on the edge of tropical, kind of humid, verdant green.
Yes.
You know, like
everywhere you look, you sort of see it.
Beautiful.
It struck me.
I need a lot of green and a lot of humidity and a lot of water to feel safe in the world. I'm not a desert person.
Yeah.
This is like exactly the kind of climate that makes me feel like it's all going to be all right. So I love it.
Can I ask you one more bonus question for my friend Allison out there? She's a writer. I have a lot of writer friends. What was the thing after 6 years? I know you talk about this all the time. Like, go back to that failing moment with like you just rejection rather. And what made you like keep going? Like, what made you like keep wanting to be heard and validated by?
I would just say that if you're considering stopping, a really important question to ask yourself is, what is the alternative? And is the alternative better than this? And if you find an alternative that's better than creating the work that you want to create, expressing yourself the way that you want to express yourself, then do that. But every single time I sat down and asked myself, find me a better alternative than a life spent devoted to writing, I couldn't find one, and I still can't. And that's what keeps me in it, is that the alternatives just suck.
We're so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you
Let's
so
say goodbye
much.
now.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right,
Thanks for
bye,
my
everybody.
presents.